Welcome back. Hope you're enjoying your lunch. Lunch is courtesy of ExactTarget, a longtime sponsor of Media Post Summits. We appreciate their support over many years. And they started with email sponsorship, and then lately have gotten into both social and mobile. It's as they expand their horizons, we're glad that they've decided to use Media Post as an important vehicle for them. Our luncheon presenter today is Kyle Lacey. Wow. Oh, by the way, just for those who might be thinking about afternoon activities, don't worry, the boat will wait for you. So you'll have, I don't want to say you have all afternoon, but if you're there 2:15 or even up till perhaps 2:30, I'll go make sure that happens, but not any later. The boat's going to sail. So I want to introduce Kyle Lacey, Senior Manager, Content Marketing and Research for ExactTarget. Kyle?
Joel and I were sitting back here, and I just realized that I am not a graphic designer, because I'm not actually talking about 61 social trends, because that would be crazy. We have enough to go through within the next 30 minutes. So that's actually supposed to be a dividing bar to take your eyes away from the 6, but apparently I did not do that very well. A couple of housekeeping things real fast. On your table, we have 2 case studies that are not in this presentation that I would like for you to check out. E-Bags and Brooks Running. And where's Susan? Because you screamed. Susan is more than happy to read both PDFs or documents to you. You want to do that later? We'll do that later. Okay. So those are on your table, as well as this link. If you want to copy this down, I know that we are. I'll also show this at the end of the presentation. We are avid writers in general in this room, but if you want to put in bit.ly/MPSMIS13, make sure you capitalize those letters, because Bitly still hasn't figured out that if you don't caps one of those letters, then it takes you to a 404 screen, and we don't want you to do that. So make sure you caps all those letters, because this will take you directly to SlideShare, where you can download this entire presentation. So you'll be able to note take, you'll be able to view it on your mobile device, as well as download it for future reference. And I don't think we put a lead form on there, so you won't be asked to give us your name and email, which we probably should have in retrospect. So a little bit about ExactTarget, as well as myself real fast. We're a software as a service provider, 1,700 employees in 9 countries, and we deal in 6 different product lines: email, mobile, social, web personalization, marketing automation, and analytics. We have over 10,000 clients in 9 countries, and the majority of time, what I spend my day doing is marketing research. So I'm a marketing research person. I had a small business before this. I've been with ExactTarget for a year and a month. And we do a lot of subscribers, fans, and followers research. And if anybody's tweeting from here, which we have seen constantly throughout the day, feel free to tweet the company as well as my name. Unless I say this is a non-tweetable moment, and then you can't. Number 1, because we're a public company. And number 2, because sometimes it's just embarrassing, some things that I say. So just make sure that you don't if I actually say this is a non-tweetable moment. But we have a subscribers, fans, and followers series, which is a research series where we've been tracking data over the past 6 years for 9 different countries in terms of how consumers use data, how consumers use technology, how consumers use channels. Does a 24-year-old kid in the middle of nowhere actually use Twitter? Does a 64-year-old woman in New York actually use Facebook? So we go out and we ask them, how do you use these tools and how do you use them effectively, whether it's you get an email from Groupon, right, or you like a brand on Facebook. So all of this deck, the 6 social trends, actually have to do with the past 6 years of data that we've collected. Does that make sense? Okay, so if I ask, there's another housekeeping tip. If I ask a question you guys don't answer, I'm just going to stand here really awkwardly, and I'm going to feel more awkward because you guys are actually eating. But subscribers, fans, and followers, if you want to go check it out, we have over 20 research reports. But the research that's in this presentation are 3 reports: 2012 channel preference, retail touchpoints exposed, where we went in and looked at the top 100 retailers and what they were doing in terms of acquisition in store as well as online. And then we tracked their behavior over 60 days. And then the newest one is Marketers from Mars, where we actually have this really weird idea that sometimes marketers in general make decisions based off of what their opinion is instead of what the consumer opinion is. So we went out and surveyed marketers as well as surveying consumers that weren't marketers and compared the data on how biased we actually are in terms of how we're making decisions based off of technology or platforms. Okay, so the majority of this data in here is based off of this research. This is also called a crack presentation. There are 82 slides in this presentation, and we're going to do it in 30 minutes. So are we ready? Is everybody prepared? Do we need to take a breath? Thank you, Keith. Okay, but another thing. There were some people, Joel, will you stand up? Does everybody know Joel Book? He's a media post veteran, correct? And there's this weird rumor going around that Joel was going to give this presentation shirtless with sandals on doing a Hawaiian dance. And that's not true, and I'm sorry to screw the rest of your day up because you can't see Joel shirtless. My apologies, Joel. So this is a crack presentation, and what we want to talk about is basically trends that we're seeing in the industry with our clients as well as trends that we're seeing with our clients as well as our partners. So we're going to start with what used to be big and still is big. Google, in my belief, completely ruined it for marketers because in the early days of Google, and for those of you who've been in the internet for a while, you know that you could change up some title tags and basically print money. Or you could buy a PPC campaign and basically print money, right? So in my opinion, looking back on this, I believe that Google actually ruined it for marketers because after Google came out with all these new things, we're actually looking for the next big thing. And then MySpace came along, right? With Rupert. What's his name? That should tell you everything right there. I don't even know who owns it. MySpace came up, right? And then Second Life. Who remembers Second Life? College students, you know Second Life? Nice, great. Do you remember what we were talking about when it had to do with Second Life? Okay, so they still make money. They still make about $70 million in revenue. But what were brands talking about like 5 years ago? We're going to build this in-store 3D thing, and we're going to have a billboard, and you can test drive the new Honda down a fake street, and this was all going to work, and everything was going to be great, right? The next big thing. Did anybody actually invest in Second Life? We're not going to make fun of you. Okay, good, great. We're all progressive here. That's awesome. And then Facebook came around. We're still trying to deal with Facebook. Then Twitter came around, and Twitter tweeting and all this crap that's going on. Path hit up. Pinterest came about. Vine came about. Google+, Vimeo, YouTube, and the new MySpace, of course, which is being resurrected by JT, which is perfect. So, my clicker is screwing up. Now you guys already know what's coming up. So in terms of what's next, the number one thing, so we're going to go through 6 of the things that we think is what next, and number 1's the undead. Do you guys have a clicker back there, by any chance? Does anybody watch, do you know what I'm talking about when I say the undead? If there's anything you take away from today, you should watch more shows on AMC. Walking Dead, Mad Men, and what's the other one? Breaking Bad, pretty much the best shows of all time. Okay, so the undead, when we're talking about the undead, it's the idea that we listen to pundits all the time in terms of what's actually happening in the industry, and you see headlines like, why email no longer rules? Is email dead? Haven't you heard email's dead is according to Facebook's COO. Mark Zuckerberg says the email's end is nigh, laugh out loud. Facebook is dead for Gen Y, what's next? Twitter is dead, long live Twitter. Jason?
Ho! How's it going? How you guys doing? You guys are good. Twitter's not dead. It's alive and kicking. Oh, what?
Blogging is dead.
Blogging is dead.
Don't worry about that yet.
Sure?
I'll grab
It
it.
should work, I think.
Thank you.
I'm out of here.
Marketing is dead. The web is dead. The CMO is dead. And the death of advertising. And I think a lot of times when we read this stuff and we think about this stuff, that was one of the reasons why Jeff Rohrs, who's my boss and Joel's boss, came about doing subscribers, fans, and followers, because we actually wanted to find out why people use things instead of just listening to a bunch of other people say that certain things are dead, because frankly, you're going to always see that because it's a good headline, right? So when we went out and we interviewed people, and this has changed in preference from 2008 to 2012, and the one thing I want you to check out is social networks. So this is growth based off of why people want permission-based messaging. What channel do they want it delivered through? Email, of course, went up 5%. Text messages went from 1 to 5, and social networks was 0 in 2008. This is 2,100 US consumers 18 to 64 years old that we surveyed. But it went from 0 to 6% in terms of I prefer to receive marketing messaging via social networks. And so when we're looking at this, we know that growth is happening, right? And we know that preferences are important. But the one thing to keep in mind when I'm going through all these stats and when we're talking about all these mass transitions and everything that's happening in the world, and Twitter is dying and Vine is a 6-second video that's going to change the world, we have to realize that we have to step back and say there are certain things that are still important in terms of how our consumers are communicating with us, no matter what somebody else says. No matter what I say, no matter what anybody on the stage says, because in all reality, we need to look at data more effectively in order to understand what channels people are actually using. And it all comes back to data, and I think that a lot of people would say this year's the year of mobility and mobile and all that jazz, and I believe that for a lot of reasons. But data is also extremely important because it helps us make better decisions. And so when we're talking about the undead as a trend, it means we need to ignore headlines and actually look at the data that we have in order to make better decisions. So when we're talking about all this stuff, I want you to walk through a brief example of what I believe we should be focusing on when we're talking about strategy. Customer lifecycle engagement means the actual flow that somebody walks through when they're engaging with your brand. So I know you can't see this, which is why I gave you that link to download it. But every single ring in here that's going through a life cycle is a certain touch point that a customer is going through when they're engaging with your brand, right? And so there's two different phases, especially if there's awareness, evaluation, purchase, usage, repurchase, and advocacy. There's the business getting phase and the business keeping phase. What do you think is the most important phase in this life cycle as a marketer? Social, email, mobile, I don't care what you do. As a marketer, what do you think the most important phase is? There's no wrong answer, really. There might be one wrong answer. You got to get them to keep them. What else? Repurchase. What else? Advocacy. Okay, what else? From a social perspective, what is it? In my opinion, advocacy, right? Because that's usually when I'm looking at things, whether you're trying to get somebody in terms of an email list or a mobile list or an SMS list, right? Social tends to be for co-creation and advocacy. But when we're talking about all this stuff, I think it's the phase right in here. Usage, repurchase, and advocacy. Because you can get somebody to use a product, but if you don't re-engage them, no matter where you got them, are they going to repurchase and then are they going to become an advocate? And we know, all of us know, that if they repurchase a product, are they a more important consumer in your database? Absolutely. Unless your data tells you differently, but it'd be rare if that actually happens, right? So when we're walking through these life cycles, we want to remember that I don't think we're here yet, honestly, but we want to get to the point where we can design, from a technology standpoint as well as a data standpoint and a channel standpoint, this process for every single person that's engaging with our brand. The personalized experience, right? Whether they came through social, mobile, or email, this is what we want to look like. So number 2 is moments. Does anybody know what this is? Other than what it actually is? Have you seen this before? Who's seen this? Anybody? What is it? It's an underwater dog coffee table book. Okay, so this will connect to what you guys do, believe me. A photographer came around and he was trying to figure out what to do to differentiate himself, because with Instagram and all this stuff, photographers, right? And he watched his dog jump into a pool, and he got into the pool and took a picture of his dog swimming, and then took a bunch of pictures of dogs swimming and made thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars just taking pictures of dogs underwater because apparently it's hilarious. Okay, so this doesn't give you an idea of what you can do from a strategy standpoint, but what did this guy do? And I wish I knew his name, but I don't. I'm sorry. He took advantage of a moment and capitalized on it when nobody else would. Okay, the best example of that from a social as well as email cross-channel perspective is this. I didn't use this year's, I used last year's, my apologies. What is this? Super Bowl coin toss, right? Who took advantage of a moment in the Super Bowl? Who was it? Not Oreo. I don't even want to get into the Oreo campaign. I don't have any idea who that is, and that's terrible. Oh, no, not the photographer. Wow, that's nice, though. That's a tweetable moment. Papa John's, right? Does everybody remember that? What did they do? Free pizzas, right? You voted, you shared it online, you gave them your email address, you got a free pizza, and they tracked all that data, and they are remarketing constantly the past year. But what did they say when they were looking at the Super Bowl? Why isn't this is one of the most watched moments other than Beyonce in the entire game. Why isn't anybody taking advantage of this? Okay, but what did Papa John's do differently, and I understand there's a little bit of a difference, than Oreo? Oreo took advantage of a moment by sharing a picture that got a bunch of retweets. What's happening after that? Nothing. Well, we don't know that. Let me be very clear. I don't know that. There might be some weird algorithm that they've got going on out there. But Papa John's is taking advantage of a moment by planning, right? In order to capture what? Data to reuse constantly, whether that's social data or email data. Number 3 is co-creation. And co-creation is my favorite thing because I think this is what social media really should be used for other than customer service. Co-creation is the idea that the savviest brands will begin to build small, highly engaged communities where they can learn more about what their audiences want, need, and desire. This is from We Are Social. If you're not familiar with We Are Social, they're an ad firm in the UK, and you should check them out today, actually right now if you want to, right? But what I actually took this away from the panel with the college students. They talked about this table up here. Everybody wave. College students. They talked about how things were more niched for them. They wanted things to be more niche. And I think this is where we're moving from a social perspective. Because we're finally understanding how to take it and use it the right way, monitor and manage that communication and use it for the brand and use it as well to drive revenue. And so when we're talking about small, highly engaged communities, we usually use the example of this guy because ExactTarget was built 10 years ago after one of our co-founders read Permission Marketing by Seth Godin. No joke. He owned a dry cleaning company and wanted to send coupons and alerts to his customers, and they built this company that we have now. But Seth Godin said back in Permission Marketing, marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, but about the stories you tell. I think that if he would rewrite it, he would more likely say marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, but about the stories we tell. And even if he rewrote it again, it would be marketing is no longer about the stuff you make, but about the stories they tell. Because co-creation is about the content that your customers create about you that you can use to market to their friends, meta audiences, right? Does that make sense? So I'm going to give you an example, probably the best example that I could come up with. Did anybody do this with Hallmark? Like actually fill it out on their Facebook page. Okay, so this is on their Facebook page. Vow to tell them today. Everyone you know has something they need to hear. Vow to tell them. So you click Vow to tell them, and it says log in with Facebook. What happens when you log into Facebook? They pillage your entire profile, right? But what are they taking away? Basic info and email address. Great. So I logged in. I vow to tell my wife, boyfriend, John, husband, grandpa, Mary, blah, 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 what I want them to hear. So I have a wife, so I said, I vow to tell wife. I didn't really fill that out the right way because it should have been my wife's, so I didn't sound like an idiot. But I vow to tell wife that something. I can add a photo, and I can click next. They actually asked me if I wanted to share it, right? So if I'm sharing it, where is it going? It's going to my profile. We all know this. This is not the cool part of all this. And then after you share it, they say, I vow to tell wife, you see I sound like an idiot, That's a non-tweetable moment, by the way. I vow to tell wife that I love you. We can help you fulfill it with a card. Create a personalized card. They will send the card to your wife or the person you fill that message out for. You can print an in-store coupon. What's on the in-store coupon? Do you think they're scanning that based off of the information they received from Facebook? We hope so. Or sign up for email. It's interesting to sign up for email because they already have my email address, but they're asking for it. Okay, so this is a cool example of using social for acquisition, but what is cooler that's happening here? More cool. In your opinion, what are they doing that is way beyond what most people do? Come on, you're the top of the line social media people.
They're creating a story that is personal between you and your wife, but it's being shared amongst all your friends to promote them to do the same damn thing.
Okay, so it's promoting for them to go do something. What else? It's not what I was looking for, but that's right. What else? They're tying together online and offline. Great, not what I'm looking for, but right. What else? Creating a sale. That's good. They're using their brand color, so that's awesome. It's co-creation. 200,000 people did this. I talked to the guy who ran this. I spoke at a greeting card conference, which is awesome, by the way. That's non-tweetable, believe me. I'm going to be very clear about that. 200,000 people did this. What are they doing behind the scenes with all this content? They're coming up with cards. They are taking 200,000 pieces of content that people are sharing and buying, and they're repurposing them to sell cards in the store. Or ad libs. It's been a long time since, or Mad Libs, right? What did they have to pay to do this, honestly? We don't know. But how many cards did they actually get? And now we can track how many people redeem that in-store coupon, right? We can track how many people engage with them, all these engagement metrics. But honestly, they used a platform where people love their brand and ask them for their opinion on how to make the brand better. Now, they didn't do it as forthright as they probably could have, but what did they do? They're using that content to drive interaction, right? And to monitor the brand. And they're giving somebody the ability to share that constantly. And they're creating infographics out of that. And they're just sharing content. Because we can talk about platforms and tools and all this crap all the time. But if you have terrible content, doesn't matter what platform you use. Doesn't matter how you monitor something. Doesn't matter what message you send. Absolutely not. Because if you have bad content, it doesn't matter. But if you allow your consumer to create the content with you, you have the ability to create great content because they're the ones that are buying your brand and your customer is your best salesperson, in my opinion. So when we go to the fourth phase, it's serving is the new selling. It was the only picture that I could find that had to do with serving that wasn't copyrighted. So it's kind of disgusting. But serving is the new selling is what we call a bookism. So Joel, wave again. Joel has these comments that change everybody's lives, and this is one of them. Serving is the new selling. If you ask him tonight after we go for dinner, he'll probably tell you all of them. But serving is the new selling means that social can also be used as a customer service standpoint, which is where we usually help clients with this stuff. So I'm going to show you a video real fast. Does anybody know Jay Bear? ConvinceandConvert.com? Okay, so write this down real fast. ConvinceandConvert.com. I'm going to show you this video. It's a 3-minute video about customer service. Did anybody see the Social Bakers research that came out recently about Facebook and customer service? Okay, brilliant. This is the first time I've ever embedded a video. Oh no. That's the punchline too. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Bear Facts, and I am actually broadcasting from Lacey Industries where I had my admin, Harley Cat, running around here, and I was actually going to show Jay Harley because Jay showed us Mr. Cheeto. I can't remember what episode that was, but
The best one.
Pretty much the best one with Mr. Cheeto in it. But Harley ran away, and I don't know where she went. So we'll get to that later. But
Do you have like a sketch artist there that could maybe give us a rendering of Harley Cat? Could you work on that?
Actually, my wife is down the hallway, and she'll sketch something up, and we'll show it at the end. How about that?
Excellent. That'd be perfect.
Okay, so today what we're talking about is based off of a new report released from Social Bakers on how companies are doing more customer service on Facebook and how, compared to Twitter and compared to Facebook and all these social media channels, consumers are actually asking more questions on Facebook than they ever had before. And I think that we might run into some little issues in terms of organizational management of social media within companies, as well as how people handle this. So Jay, why don't you take it away?
Thanks, Kyle. You bet. We've talked in the past on Bare Facts and elsewhere about the need to break down silos between email and social media. We've talked about the fact that email and social media are much more strategically similar than people typically give them credit for. Email is essentially Madonna, right? The original, but now slightly tired. And social media is really Lady Gaga, the exact same thing, just with a fresh coat of paint. So we got to break down those silos between email and social media. But now we have to take the next step and break down any silos that exist within the social media team in your own organization. Because what happens in a lot of companies, especially medium and large size brands, is that the customer service or customer care team is in charge of Twitter and marketing or communications is in charge of Facebook. This made a lot of sense at one point because initially, in terms of the social web, Twitter was the place that customers would go to punish or praise brands or ask for help or things like that. Twitter was the new telephone for a while. But what we're seeing now, and this report from Social Bakers is proof of it, that customers are increasingly using Facebook in place of Twitter to ask questions of brands. The stat that they show in this report is that in the last 6 months, the volume of questions asked by consumers on brands' Facebook pages has gone up by 26%. And that's no joke. And not only are brands needing to answer these questions, in some cases, customers are sort of helping themselves in Facebook, right?
Yeah, and we actually did this report called Retail Touchpoints Exposed for ExactTarget, where we went out and reviewed, retailers and what they were doing online and offline. And we also reviewed what they were doing from a customer service perspective on Facebook, and we actually found that 51% of the time a consumer was answering another consumer's question before the brand ever got to the question. Now, from a co-creation standpoint of brand support, that's really good if you have a bunch of brand fans, but if they're not brand fans, then it's just piling up and everybody is working together to make this issue even a bigger issue, right? So that's why people need to think about this and think about what Social Bakers are actually saying in this report.
Absolutely. I mean, the reality is this. It doesn't matter who manages Twitter or who manages Facebook or what department in your company handles each of your social channels or who their managers are or how they interact behind the scenes. To your customers, it's all the same company. So you need to act like it. That's the bare facts.
There you go. We'll see you next week. Later, Jay. Okay, so basically what we're trying to say with this report, and for those of you who are asking, this is actually the sketch of Harley Cat. The cat literally weighs like 50 pounds and doesn't really move, which is surprising that it ran away when I tried to show Jay. Mr. Cheeto is actually Jay's dog, and he calls him Mr. Cheeto, which is ridiculous. Except for the college student that follows the Cheeto dude. Okay, so 51% of the time when we were tracking, we tracked over 6,000 consumer messages on retailers' Facebook pages. And we found that, did you hear that? That's my Outlook alarm saying I'm almost done. We found that 51% of the time a consumer was answering the question before the brand ever got to it. Average response time for a retailer was 7 hours on both Twitter and Facebook. What do you think the average response time was on the weekends? 27 hours average. Now, what's the problem with retailers answering questions within 27 hours on the weekend? Because that's when people are shopping, right? So it's about reorganization. It's about actually thinking that serving is the new selling. When we serve people, they are more likely to sell our product for us. Number 5 is consumer mobility, which we're going to blow through because we already know that this is important. What would you give up over your mobile phone? This is a stat by, this is actually a survey by Motorola if you haven't seen it. 70% of people would abandon alcohol, 63% would skip chocolate, and what do you think 33% would do? 33% would give up sex. So we saw this and we were like, this is ridiculous. We're going to go do our survey as well. And I know you can't see this, but percentage of people who would keep their smartphone, and Guy was talking about it yesterday in terms of Twitter usage on mobile devices, right? We all know this. We know that open rates in emails are astronomically higher than they were 6 months ago. 13% of people would give up their refrigerator, 34% would give up their microwave, 46% would give up their dishwasher, and 69% would give up their tablet computer. We know that this is trending. We know that when we're talking about individuals using tablets, 52% of 5 to 8-year-olds in America are using a tablet. What's crazy is that 10% of kids that have no idea what they're doing, 0 to 1, no offense to anybody with 1-year-olds, they're probably chewing on it, but they are also using a tablet. And they are going to be the ones buying products from us in the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And the only difference between now and when social hit is that mobile is growing a hell of a lot faster than social did in terms of usage, in terms of people using it, the time spent. And we know this, right? 7 out of 10 children are using tablets in tablet-owning households in the United States. Under 12 years old, 7 out of 10 of those children are using tablets. And they're using it for a lot of things, but social is just one component of that. So the last one is data equals relevance. And when we're talking about data, I always use this quote, Hal Varian, Google's chief economist, and because it's Google, we listen to him. And he did something else, didn't he? Does anybody know what else he did? I'm pretty sure he's like one of the inventors of the internet. So we're going to listen to him. The ability to take data, to be able to understand it, to process it, to extract value from it, to visualize it, to communicate it is going to be a hugely important skill in the next decades. You see this with people that are hiring rocket scientists out of MIT to do data analysis instead of them going to NASA and solving real problems. We're in trouble for a lot of reasons. 300 billion minutes were spent on Facebook in May, and rocket scientists are being hired by Best Buy. Okay, that's a non-tweetable moment as well. But when it comes to data, data beats opinions, and this is my personal opinion when it comes to social. We can have opinions, and most of your bosses have opinions, and everybody has this opinion on how social works, but in all reality, data can beat those opinions. Data beats it because we can use it to verify what we're actually doing. So I'm going to give you one example of data being used out of the ExactTarget platform, and then I'm done. And this is 6.5, which is any term you want to use with channel, because everybody's using it. Cross, omni, multi-channel. So this is a major retailer. I'm not 100% sure whether I could use the name or not, can I? The clout infographic? Major retailer, let's just go with that. So we actually have a system where we can connect social profiles with email addresses to deliver personalized messaging using clout. And a lot of our competitors and a lot of people talk about this where they can connect the two things, but what are they doing? You can publish to both of them, right? But we're talking about connection. We're talking about using data to drive relevance. So first we connect email subscribers with our public social data for a single view. So we take email, we connect it with Twitter, and we connect it with clout. And then we pull information out of that has to do with John Smith, that has his email, cloud score, true reach, all these things that Cloud puts in there because they also hired a rocket scientist, and Cloud topics. And that also pulls what the individuals like and the subscribers and what they do. And we actually found that 12% of active subscribers are Twitter users, 1% of that group follows the brand, and open rates are actually crazily higher if they're connected on two platforms. So the open rate for not a follower was 15.8% for this retailer, and the follower was 36.1% because we took data from Clout, we took data from their profile and used it to personalize the message to them via email. Because we knew that they wanted to purchase or open or interact with that brand via email. Followers' average open rate is 190% higher than non-Twitter matches and 128% higher than Twitter actives who are not followers. But that's because we looked at it and we said, if we actually want to truly connect social and email, which in my belief needs to happen, especially if we're going to this idea that marketing should control every channel instead of just a bunch of random organizations everywhere, right? in one platform that we need to connect these different data points. We need to connect an email with a Facebook account. We need to connect an email with a Twitter account. Because we all know that if we connect on multiple platforms with an individual, they are a more engaged individual. 50% of clients or customers are more likely to buy after following you on Twitter. And that's also from the Retail Touchpoints research. Okay, I'm getting the stare. So when we're talking about this, we're pulling personalization, we're using it. So when we're using this and we're using data from a social perspective, target customers who are not on Twitter, who are on Twitter but not following you with a call to action to follow. The more touch points they have with your brand, the more engaged they will be. Plan your email, social, mobile communications together, even if you have to work with disparate units within an organization. Many of your customers are connected to you in multiple channels. Being consistent with messaging creates a better experience. We all know this, right? And number 3 is use social data you have about your customer to improve your content strategy, because if the content's terrible and the content's the same for everybody in your database, it doesn't matter because you're stuck 5 years ago. Many of your customers are connected to you in multiple channels. Being consistent with messaging creates a better experience, which I think was on the last slide. So I screwed you out of half of 3, so that's my mistake. So when we're talking about connecting data, and we're talking about the customer lifestyle, and we're talking about all these channels, it's important that we focus on social, and it's important that we focus on this idea that a more social customer is more engaged than somebody that's on a single platform. It's important that we take all these pieces of data and connect them. It's not my job to tell you how to do your strategy. It's not, right? That's why you're here. You're good at that. It's my job to supply you with data to help you make better decisions with your strategy and supply you with technology that allows you to do that. And I'm a marketing research person. I'm not a salesperson, which is fair, right? So here's the, we're actually giving away an iPad mini, which I forgot because it was bulk and I didn't want to carry it on the plane. But who's going to walk around and take it while we're transitioning here? Who's going to do it? Derek, you guys want to take out your business cards or tweet me. No, don't do that. We can't track that. We're actually going to give away an iPad mini, and also make sure that you take down that URL because this has the link to the presentation. Yeah, you can go, but we're going to draw.
Okay.
I'm a little late.
Thank you very much. Can you get me here? Talk to me, Goose. All right, there we go. Kyle, thank you very much. Any questions for Kyle?
I know that was a lot of information.
A lot of information. So Kyle, you're taking off today?
No, I'll be around for the rest of the conference.
Oh, good. Okay, so Kyle's here. Also, Joel Book. Joel, will you raise your hand? Joel Book's here. And one other gentleman from ExactTarget, I believe. Sorry, I can't see you. Okay, there you go. So, and Susan. Hi, Susan. So, the ExactTargeters are here. Grab them if you have questions. A lot of information, great information. Thank you very much. Thank you for lunch as well. And while we're doing this, I'll give you some housekeeping notes because, everybody wants to win a mini. Do I qualify? Am I in?
No.
Yeah, no.
No, you can be.
I'll take the
You
stage
can be.
anyway. All right. We have, I gotta get my notes. Everything is gonna happen at 2:45 for the afternoon activities. So just don't worry because it's getting, it's 1:40-ish right now. So at 2:45, everything is going to happen.